Behind the Line Extra for your Saturday, December 20th, 2019. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Then you have 5-star rating on iTunes. You guys know the drill. Bengals Nation. Well, that's not really a good way to describe the fan base in Cincinnati. The handful of Bengals fans that are left are ecstatic this morning. People are releasing their mock drafts right now, and all signs are pointing to Joe Burrow going number 1 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to save our franchise. We will finally have a franchise quarterback for the first time since Boomer Esiason 30 years ago. And no, I did not forget about Andy Dalton or Carson Palmer. Neither one of those was ever a franchise quarterback. Andy Dalton was never a game changer. He was never a threat. Defensive coordinators didn't stay awake at night worrying about how they were going to stop Andy Dalton on Sunday. His 4-interception performance last week against New England should erase all doubts that the Red Rocket, I hate that fucking nickname, is on his way out. He basically rolled out the red carpet for Joe Burrow. It would be a nice story in April. You know, Joe Burrow grew up 3 hours away from Cincinnati. The hometown kid returns home to save one of the most miserable franchises in the NFL. What is it about NFL football in the state of Ohio? You've got one of the most prestigious college football programs in the country in Columbus. Talking about the Ohio State University, of course. Yet your 2 NFL teams have been in the doldrums my entire lifetime. And I don't want to hear about Marvin Lewis's decade-long run either. Yes, they made the playoffs some of those years. How many playoff games did they win? I'll give you the answer. None. So drafting Joe Burrow would give the Bengals a shot in the arm. There's no doubt about it. The handful of Bengals fans left would be excited going into next season. I'm sure season ticket sales would see a dramatic increase. The question is, can Joe Burrow turn around the Bengals? If I'm him, I'm pulling an Eli Manning and doing everything I can not to end up in Cincinnati. And just in case you didn't know, back in 2004, the Chargers had the number 1 pick. They wanted Eli Manning. Eli basically refused to sign with them. He wanted to go to New York. The Chargers ended up drafting him, traded him to the Giants for Phillip Rivers. The rest is history. I have no doubt that Joe Burrow is going to be successful in the NFL. Now, he's got critics. They say that he's only had 1 good season in college. That really isn't a big deal for me. Now, would I rather him be a 2 to 3 year starter? Yes, but some quarterbacks just have that it factor. Joe Burrow has it. Kyler Murray only started 1 year at Oklahoma. The Cardinals are 4-8-1, but I would say that Kyler Murray has had a good rookie season. Cam Newton started 1 year in Auburn. He's made it to a Super Bowl. So only having 1 year starting under center in college isn't the end-all be-all for success in the NFL. But Joe Burrow going to Cincinnati is career suicide. Mike Brown has owned this team since 1991. In 28 years, he's drafted 13 quarterbacks. The best 2 are Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton. Neither are making it to the Hall of Fame. This franchise hasn't won a playoff game since 1990. So since Mike Brown has owned this team, they're 0-7 in the playoffs. 7 playoff appearances in 28 years. In the past decade, the best players drafted by the Bengals are Geno Atkins and A.J. Green. The star defensive tackle is a Pro Bowler just about every year. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves because he's playing in Cincinnati. You take away Geno Atkins, And this team hasn't had a Pro Bowler since 2017 when A.J. Green made it. They haven't had a first-team All-Pro since 2015 when, you guessed it, Geno Atkins made it. Mike Brown hasn't drafted one Hall of Fame player in 28 years. Just to put that into perspective, since Sean Payton came to New Orleans in 2006, he's drafted several potential Hall of Famers. Michael Thomas Morstead should go into the Hall of Fame, one of the best punters in the NFL. Cam Jordan. You can make an argument for Mark Ingram. He also gave a second chance to Drew Brees when no one else in the NFL would touch him. Drew Brees is a saint for life, so I'm counting him in that group even though he was drafted by the Chargers. My point is, the Bengals are a bad organization. They don't draft well. It's a team of misfits. When is the last time the Bengals had a great offense, a great defense? When is the last time the Bengals had a great team? Their best receiver, A.J. Green, is likely on his way out the door. His contract expires at the end of the season. Cincinnati wants to franchise tag him. He wants a long-term contract. The thing is, he's been injured the past 2 seasons. He played 9 games last year, hasn't touched the field in 2019. Now, he's saying all the right things. He's saying he wants to stay in Cincinnati, but I don't see them offering him a long-term, big money contract. Hell, there were rumors earlier this season that they were going to trade him to New Orleans. So to answer the question that I asked earlier, can Joe Burrow turn around the Cincinnati Bengals? The answer is no. Because it starts at the top. This franchise is plagued with bad ownership. When you have bad ownership, no one player can save the team. Just look at the New York Knicks if you want a perfect example. All right, let's get to the NBA for a second. The Lakers and the Bucks played Thursday night in Milwaukee. Big national TV game. Probably the biggest game of the regular season up until this point. Number 1 team in the East playing the number 1 team in the West. Milwaukee built a huge lead early, eventually won the game. I'm seeing a lot of overreaction to this game on social media and in traditional media. The Lakers lose. Milwaukee's the best team in the NBA. Wrong. This game meant much more to Milwaukee than it meant to the Lakers. Milwaukee's a young team. The Lakers are the grizzled veterans. It's a regular season game in December. For the Bucks, this was the biggest game of the regular season in decades. In the end, this will mean nothing come playoff time. The Lakers were on the last game of a 5-game road trip. They were tired. Milwaukee came out, punched them in the mouth early, built a big lead. I was impressed, though, with the Lakers. They could have just mailed it in the rest of the game. They did make a couple of comebacks. But Milwaukee had the fresher legs. They're the younger team. This game meant a whole lot more to them than it did to the Lakers and LeBron James. LeBron has played in, over 100 big games. And when I say big games, I'm talking big-time playoff games. I'm talking Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals. I'm talking, 12, 15, 20 million people watching. Not the 2 to 3 million that were watching this game Thursday night. I saw an article on Yahoo written by Vincent Goodwill asking if Giannis' dominant performance over the Lakers signals a passing of the guard in the NBA. Are you fucking kidding me? A passing of the guard in a regular season game in December. Torches aren't passed in the regular season. Legends aren't made in the regular season. James Harden is a great regular season player. He's in the running for the MVP every year. never made an NBA Finals as the guy in Houston. He made it that 1 year in Oklahoma City when he was coming off the bench. So don't crown Giannis yet. He hasn't proven anything in the playoffs. What happened last year in the Eastern Conference Finals? Milwaukee goes up 2-0 over Toronto. Then Nick Nurse swaps Kawhi over to guard Giannis. And the Raptors win 4 straight. Giannis is a non-factor. Kawhi Leonard completely shut him down. Milwaukee is the best team in the Eastern Conference. There's not really a doubt about it. But I'm not buying them as being better than the Lakers. Or the Clippers, for that matter. Think about it. The Bucks have one player they can rely on in clutch situations. Giannis. The Lakers have LeBron, Anthony Davis. Rondo always shows up in the playoffs. He's called Playoff Rondo for a reason. The Clippers have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I talked about this with Gerald Burgay last week on this podcast. The supporting cast in Milwaukee just isn't as strong as the 2 teams in Los Angeles. So let's just take it easy on the crowning of Giannis as the new king of the NBA. All right, let's get to our NFL bets for this weekend. It should be a great weekend for the NFL. I was a bit disappointed last weekend. Had several blowouts in key games. We got some big-time matchups this weekend. We have a triple header today. 2 big matchups today. So the picks this weekend will be for today and tomorrow. So let's get started. First game up, Rams at Niners. Current line, San Francisco -6.5. I say it every week on this podcast. Find a team that was embarrassed the week before and take them the following week. And we're being gifted nearly a touchdown in a division game. The one thing that concerns me here is how motivated are the Rams going to be? With the loss at Dallas last week, their season is pretty much over. They aren't mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but unless Minnesota has a massive collapse, the season is over for the Rams. I mentioned on Tuesday's podcast that I was concerned about the 49ers defense. They've been exposed the past couple of weeks. Gave up 46 points in New Orleans, lost last week to the Falcons at home. The Niners defense is banged up. Richard Sherman missed last week. He's questionable today with a hamstring injury. Kwan Williams and Dee Ford are also questionable. You have 3 key players on this San Francisco defense that might not play. This 49ers defense is hobbling, literally, into the playoffs. Todd Gurley is quietly catching fire towards the end of this season. Before the Dallas game, Sean McVay was using the shit out of him. 23 carries, 19 carries, 25 carries. And the Rams won 3 straight. I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Todd Gurley against this banged up San Francisco defense. San Francisco's not a great team at home. 3 times this season, they've been favored by 6.5 or more at home. They're 1-2 straight up and 0-2-1 against the spread. Rams are 7-2 against the spread their last 9 games on the road and 6-0 following an against the spread loss. I'm going to take the free points, taking the Rams plus 6.5. All right, next game up. Bills at Patriots. Current line, New England -6.5. This feels like a trap game to me, but I'm going to take the bait. I love the Bills getting this many points. Buffalo should have beaten the Patriots in their first meeting. Towards the beginning of the season, the Bills were struggling with turnovers. 10 turnovers through their first 4 games, including 4 in their game against New England alone. With 4 turnovers, the Bills still only lost that game by 6 points. Buffalo has cleaned it up on the offensive side. Since week 5, they've only turned the ball over 6 times. And they have the best defense in the NFL, in my opinion. Going up against an aging Tom Brady and a Patriots offense with no weapons that is struggling to score points. Take away the drubbing of the Bengals last week. Those 34 Patriot points were mostly off of turnovers. Since week 9, New England is averaging close to 18 points a game. And you want me to swallow close to a touchdown against the best defense in the league? I'm going to pass on that. Buffalo's a great road team. 5-1 straight up on the road, 7-0-1 against the number their last 8 road games. This is a division game. These teams know each other well. I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive game. I'll take the points. Take Buffalo plus 6.5. All right, let's get into Sunday's games. By the way, did anyone see the bowl game last night? Utah State, Kent State. I believe it was called the Smoothie Frisco Bowl something. I don't know. Kent State got their first bowl win ever. I talked last week about how college bowl season has become saturated. There are 40 bowl games. That's about 30 too many. I bring this up because no one cares about these bowl games. I turned this game on late last night when I got home. They did a sky view of the stadium. It's the fourth quarter of a close game. I believe it was a 3-point game at that point. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this. 90% of that stadium was empty. It was a sea of empty red seats. No one fucking cared to show up. They couldn't give tickets away. So what is the point of these bowl games? I bet you in 70 to 80% of the meaningless bowl games, half of the stadiums will be filled. 50% capacity. These bowls aren't about the fans. They're not about the players. It's about these universities and the NCAA making money. That's it. The ratings haven't been released for that game last night as of the time that I'm recording this podcast Saturday morning. But I would be surprised if more than 250,000 people tuned in to watch that game last night. All right, let's get back to real football and our NFL plays. Ravens at Browns, current line Baltimore -9. I'm going to go out on a limb here and do something that I never do. I don't think I've done this all year. Rarely do I swallow more than a field goal, and hardly ever do I bet an NFL game and swallow more than a touchdown, especially on the road. But there's no way I can back the Browns the rest of this season. Cleveland's a mess. It's been a boiling volcano all season, and it finally erupted last week in Arizona. This Browns team quit on their head coach. Kareem Hunt even called out the roster after the game for quitting. Players were begging the Cardinals, a 4-win team, to get them out of Cleveland. Freddie Kitchens is in over his head. Now, Cleveland blew out Baltimore early this season, but that was mainly due to turnovers. The Ravens had back-to-back weeks with 3 turnovers a game. Since week 5, they've only turned the ball over 6 times. The Ravens have dominated the last half of this season. 7-1 against the number. They're winning by an average of 21 points a game. I don't think the Browns show up for this game. I think they're ready for this season to end. And I think it could get ugly in Cleveland tomorrow. I'm going to take Baltimore -9. Saints at Titans, current line New Orleans -2.5. I'm not going to lie, this is a tough one. The Titans are fighting for their playoff lives. They lose this game at home, the season's over. Unless the Texans lose today as well. Unfortunately for Tennessee, they're running into a Saints freight train that is rolling into the playoffs. Drew Brees is as fresh as he's been this late in the season in years. The injury earlier this season ended up being a blessing in disguise. The Saints have been unstoppable on offense. Over 400 yards, 3 of their last 4 games. Drew Brees has over 300 passing yards in 3 of the last 4 games. They signed Janoris Jenkins last week to shore up the secondary. The lone weakness on this New Orleans defense was Eli Apple. He was getting torched the last 4 to 5 weeks. Jenkins is one of the better cover corners, and we all know how great Marshawn Lattimore is. Tennessee's offense is run through Derrick Henry. But the Saints have a top 5 run defense. It is hard to run against the front 7 in New Orleans. I keep hearing that the Saints are a different team on the road. 5, 6, 10 years ago, I would agree. But the Saints are a good road team. They're 5-1 on the road this year. The Titans have a good defense, but they are weak against the pass. They rank 25th defending against the pass. Drew Brees is going to be able to exploit this Titans secondary. I like the Saints here, taking New Orleans -2.5. Cowboys and Eagles, current line Dallas -2. All season I've been telling you guys the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. That all changed this week with Dak Prescott's shoulder injury. I don't think the injury is as bad as people think, but what it will do is force Dallas to do what they should have been doing all season and run the offense through Ezekiel Elliott. The Eagles have won their last 2 games, but they were playing from behind and had to come back against 2 of the worst teams in the league in the Giants and the Redskins. Carson Wentz was outplayed by Dwayne Haskins for the majority of that game last week. Philly is banged up. Wentz has very few weapons around him. And the defense, which was the strength of this team most of the season, has regressed. Dwayne Haskins had the best game of his career against Philadelphia. The Dolphins put up over 400 yards of offense against this Eagles defense. The Cowboys are coming into Philadelphia confident for the first time in over a month. That big win against the Rams last week was huge. I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Zeke and Tony Pollard. The Cowboys have been dominant in Philadelphia, 6-1 straight up and against the number their last 7 visits. I think that trend continues tomorrow. I'm going to swallow the points here, take Dallas -2, Cowboys win the NFC East. Last game, Bengals at Dolphins, current line Cincinnati -1. Giving you guys a freebie here in a meaningless game. There's not a chance in hell that I'm swallowing points with this shitty-ass Bengals team, much less on the road. Miami's played better the last half of the season. This team is playing hard for Brian Flores. They're loose, they're calling trick plays. He's just allowing the Dolphins and Ryan Fitzpatrick to go out and have fun. As a result, the Dolphins are 7-3 against the spread their last 10 games. What more can I say about the Bengals? They suck. Andy Dalton's career in Cincinnati's over. This team and the city is just waiting for the draft and Joe Burrow. Worst offense in the league. Bottom 5 defense. I almost feel like this is a trap. That the odds makers are joking by making the Bengals a road favorite. Cincinnati's 2-6 against the number their last 8 games. They're yet to win on the road this season. I like the Dolphins to win here, but I'll take the free point, taking Miami +1. All right, to recap, we're on Buffalo +6.5, Rams +6.5. Those 2 games are being played today. Then tomorrow, we're on Baltimore -9, Saints -2.5, Dallas -2, Miami +1. I just realized that I'm taking mostly road teams this week. All right, that's all for today. I'll be back Tuesday to recap the weekend. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes. If there's anything that you guys want me to cover, leave me a comment or hit me up on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Have a good weekend. I will see you on Tuesday.